These UFOs are out here, man, and I want to find them.
Perhaps no one spends as much time on skyward mysteries as Jeff Woolwine.
But when these lights come on, it's like somebody with a switch on a wall. Boop. Here we are.
Woolwine's tours are free too, and you're free to believe or not.
Jeff Woolwine, the first person to do this. I think he's as honest as the day is long.
He describes his guests as top-notch, credible, and says Woolwine is one of the good guys.
Whether you believe in UFOs or not, there is something here. And they were here a long time ago. And their sightings is recorded on the mountain.
Hello and welcome back to another Petroglyphs in the Sky UFO show. How's everybody doing today? How do you like the new show? Look, crazy, isn't it? So yeah, we've been tinkering around with the studio here, and we got this great banner going on, and we're in this circle now, and yeah, so it's looking pretty good. Thank you guys for tuning in, and isn't this great? Just love the whole new look and the Phoenix lights, petroglyphs in the sky, and it's awesome. Just a great artwork. And yeah, so over here to the left, at the bottom of your left screen, you see those red arrows. No, that's not for you to be playing video games while you're watching the show. Okay. No, these are arrows on which I can move these arrows around. And when I'm talking about petroglyphs, I can actually point to the glyphs that I'm talking about. Because during these live shows, I don't have a cursor or anything else like that to point out specific things on the petroglyph panels. And so we have these red arrows now. And I can move it around, and I can, talk about and show things a little bit better. Okay, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We got a great show for you tonight. Boy, there is this UAP, unidentified aerial UAP, I think they call them now, which is a lot better, I think, than UFOs. Because, UFOs, for so long, we associate UFOs with like crafts and spaceships and stuff, and I really think that when the government first came out with this is their new report now. They call it UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomenon, which is pretty good, man, pretty good. I like that term, UAPs, because what we're seeing in the skies are like living beings, living creatures. So many times over the last 20 years studying these creatures in the sky, I just learned that these things weren't technology, that they were actually living creatures, living organisms. I don't know about organisms. I don't think they have like guts and blood and stuff like that, so I guess technically it wouldn't be an organism. But another life form, another entity, if you will. And, the Indians, they call them spirits. And I can understand why, because, when they come in and out of our world, so to speak, you can actually see through them, especially when they're going down on South Mountain in Phoenix, Arizona, the source of where these Phoenix lights and all these UFOs are hanging around is South Mountain in Phoenix, Arizona. And when they're coming in and out of the mountain, yes, ladies and gentlemen, they do come in and out of the mountain. Now, the Native Americans say they're going down into the underworld. On a scientific analysis, they are going down into the fault line energy, because South Mountain and the existing mountains around Phoenix, Arizona, were created by fault lines. And this is the reason why Phoenix, Arizona is such a hotbed to see these UAPs or UFOs or Phoenix lights and things like that is because of the mountains and the energy that creates during the times of the seasons. And so, yeah, we have this incredible UAP that I'm going to show to you tonight. I think it was filmed back in 2017, and I believe it was in Italy. Don't mistake me on that, but I really think I think it was Italy. But this thing is crazy, man. You can clearly tell that this thing is not a craft. This thing is a lie. This is a creature. And, it even looks like there's a creature inside of a creature. And that's kind of interesting, too, because studying the petroglyphs out here on South Mountain for, 20 years and talking with the Native Americans out here and actually having a shaman teach me the petroglyphs on South Mountain, I saw a lot of petroglyphs depicting these, for instance, like barbell formations, these barbell carvings, and there's a man inside this barbell, and he's kind of looking out a window. Now, this is interesting, too, because a lot of people would think, oh, well, this man is in a spaceship, and he's looking out a window. Well, what if this creature is actually coming down and absorbing this man, and he's making it, he's making a window for himself as he's taking this man up into the sky. So a lot of misunderstanding about things like this when it comes to, spaceships and technology and these entities and UAPs and things like that. And we'll probably go over that a little bit in the show. If not, there's many shows earlier on my past shows that I talk about and that I show. And so, yeah, that's pretty crazy. So a lot of people, think that, spaceships, they see these orbs and these lights in the sky are crafts, because that's basically all that, the public is, understanding, is aware of, is crafts. Because for the last, give or take 80 or 90 years, they have been talking about flying saucers and little green men from Alpha Centauri and things like this. But there really hasn't been any, scientific proof on this. There's a lot of, hearsay, or there's a lot of people selling books on their experiences, but no, conclusive hard facts. And that's basically what my show is all about. I dig into the nitty gritty, and, I present facts, not stuff that's hearsay, stuff that I've looked into personally, that I've personally witnessed in the sky. I was born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona. I've been seeing these things in the sky ever since I was a kid. So I kind of grew up with these beings in the sky. And in 2004, that's when I went out on a quest, on a hunt, on a journey to find out exactly what the Phoenix lights were. Because I kept seeing them. Everywhere I went in this valley, not only in the valley, but, I've traveled to across the United States. I lived in New York a time or two. I was there during the 9/11 event in New York City. I was about 150 miles away from 9/11 when that stuff happened. And so I was seeing the UFOs out there. Everywhere I went, the UFOs were there. So I had to make it my journey, my quest, to find out what was going on. And I just didn't take the word from somebody writing a book with no photographs, no evidence of just hearsay. I wanted to explore, and get answers for my own self. And I wasn't going to rely on somebody else telling me what these are. I had to go out there and find out exactly what it was. Prior to being a ufologist, I've loved archaeology. I've been studying archaeology way before I was ever a ufologist. And I think this is part of the reasons why I got into the Phoenix Lights and the history of Phoenix, Arizona, is because I'm that type of researcher. I'm that type of explorer, if you will. I explore what's going on. I firsthand go up on these mountains, on these rocks, and I examine the petroglyphs, and I called in a Native American shaman who works at a Pueblo Indian Art Museum in downtown Phoenix, Arizona. And I saw him on television talking about the petroglyphs. So I called him up and I was like, dude, can you go up there and explain to me, these petroglyphs on the mountains around Phoenix, Arizona? We did. He taught me all this stuff about the spirals and the doorways and not anything to do with like spaceships or little gray men or anything like that, you know, but he's talking about spirits of the earth and the sky. And watching these things on South Mountain, I lived about 1.5 miles away from South Mountain on the east side there. In 2005 is when I started watching them during the day. In 2004, I was seeing the lights on the east side of South Mountain. And then the end result was everybody's seeing flares from Tucson, and that's just crazy. These lights are here in the valley. So, you know, after that experience with the Phoenix Lights in 2004, I moved to the mountain to try to get a better, you know, view, because these things led me to the mountain. I followed these lights to South Mountain. And that's basically what started off this whole petroglyphs in the sky craziness, is because these lights brought me to South Mountain. I followed them to the mountain. So in 2005, I was watching these creatures come and go from the east side of South Mountain all the way up until like 2007, and it's continuing to this day. I don't live there by the mountain anymore, but this has been a pattern for over 2,000 years, that these things have always came to this Valley of the Sun. These things have always visited South Mountain. South Mountain is a holy mountain and will always be. And because of the energy, because of the fault lines, because these things are attracted to this mountain because of the energy. So this has been going on, you know, well before, you know, 1997, March 13th, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I mean, this thing has a huge history to it, you know, and that's basically what I talk about. I've been on the mountain. I've studied these things firsthand. I understood that these things were not technology. These things were alive. These things are creatures. We're talking about Quetzalcoatl here, the flying serpent. And I don't know how many times I've told you guys this. The flying serpent, Quetzalcoatl, is alive and well and flying above the skies of Phoenix, Arizona. He is there. I've seen him. I've witnessed this. These things are alive. These things are living entities. I went so far as not only did I call a shaman down from the Indian museum in downtown Phoenix, I also went to the public library trying to get some information on that. And from there, I discovered the first park ranger, Charles Holbrook, from 1930s up until the late 1940s. Now, he talks about the lost city of Phoenix, Arizona. He writes in his journals about the lost city of Cibola, talking about Phoenix, the lost city of gold. He explains how the Mayans were here and how there's gold buried up there on South Mountain. Look at some of my past shows. I talk about some of these tombs where the gold lies. Now, in today's show, we're going to talk about another tomb that's in my book that I haven't really talked about on the air with you guys before. So we're going to show you that tomb. This is a whole new tomb. Those of you who have got my book know what I'm talking about. But those of you who watch my shows on a regular basis, I'm going to show you a new tomb that hasn't been aired ever on the show in the last couple years that I've been doing this. I don't think I've ever talked about this tomb. I've always shown the obvious tomb, over there. And you can find all this information on my website. Make sure you follow me on my YouTube channel, The Phoenix Lights, Petroglyphs in the Sky. Make sure it says The Phoenix Lights, Petroglyphs in the Sky YouTube channel. There's a lot of people out there pretending they're me and they're taking credit for my work, and that's not it. Make sure it says The Phoenix Lights, Petroglyphs in the Sky. Subscribe. All the videos there are links to my website. There you can see the tomb that I'm talking about. You can get information from Charles Holbrook. All that information about Charles is on there. And you can see on how he talks about the lost city of gold, and how the Mayans and the Hohokam Indians buried these gold and artifacts and special significant items in these tombs before they were taken away and before they left. And Charles Holbrook says that the gold inside these tombs is as high as the tallest saguaro cactus and as round as the sun. That's a lot of gold. Okay, so there's a lot of tombs up there on South Mountain. I believe I've only found like maybe 4 or 5 tombs up there. And this is the reason why the government made South Mountain a government park. Why would you make that mountain a government park and not, the White Tank Mountains, just west of the valley? Or, the Superstition Mountains. Why didn't you make that one? Or Camelback Mountain, or North Mountain. Why South Mountain? How come not the rest of these? It's because that's where the information is on South Mountain, is where the gold is, and they want you to keep away from the gold. They don't want you to find out the true history of Phoenix, Arizona, and that's why I've dug up. We have what we've been taught in schools from the archaeology. Then we have the facts, and this is what I bring to you in my shows and my book, is the facts that I have uncovered over the last 15 to 17 years of research of South Mountain, of Phoenix, Arizona, being out there on the mountain, watching the skies above Phoenix from all over the valley, whether it's Glendale, Mesa, right there on the south side of Phoenix, Arizona, on the east side of Phoenix. I've been all over, witnessing these things in the sky. I know the hot spots. I know the dry spots. I know when they're going to be there, when they're not going to be there. I understood the sun pattern during the equinox and the solstice and the energy fault lines on the mountain. So I discovered all this stuff from first-hand basis. Nobody told me any of this. I had to learn everything from scratch, and this is what I did. And, when I was first going into this, I was understanding, I was misled by everybody else saying a craft went over Phoenix, Arizona, March 13, 1997. But when I really look into this, I don't see any evidence, no proof of this. All we find evidence of is lights on the west side of Phoenix, Arizona. And a lot of hearsay of a craft going over Phoenix. And, like I said before, if something doesn't make sense, it can't be credible. I'm sorry. If thousands of witnesses saw this craft going 8 miles an hour, a mile-wide V-shaped craft going over the city of Phoenix, and nobody can pick up a camera, nobody can pick up, anything to document this. But yet we have 4 people filming lights on the far west of the valley now, not going over the city, but far west of Phoenix, Arizona, and they're filming lights. All right, now why couldn't the same people film a craft going over Phoenix? So, I took all that in consideration. So I'm thinking I'm crass, right? Spaceships, Alpha Centauri, aliens living in people's closets, right? Until I actually firsthand experienced it. I went up on the mountains. I've talked to the Indians. I understand the petroglyphs. I went to the library. I discovered the first park ranger, Charles Holbrook. And in his writings, in his son's book, also talks about the tombs and the Mayans. And the archaeologist wants us to believe that the Hohokam people simply migrated somewhere else. They lived in Phoenix for 1,000 years, and all of a sudden they disappeared. The archaeologist says, well, it got too hot, they moved on. Okay, where did they go? We can't find any evidence of where they went. But the oral tradition, the petroglyphs on the mountains, is a written record, is a photograph record of what everyday life was in the Valley of the Sun when the Hohokam and the Mayans were here. And also a photographic record on where they went. Now, does it show them packing their bags and moving on? No, it shows them leaving everything behind and simply vanishing, gone, vanishing, taken away by these things in the sky, whether it's the Phoenix Lights, whether it's Quetzalcoatl, whether it's the orbs, the flying diamonds, all this crazy stuff. That is what we're dealing with in the skies today. That's what you and I are seeing. The Hohokam people saw it. The Mayans saw it. They didn't have any writing back then, but they were able to draw. And that's what's the real history of Phoenix, Arizona is. It lies within the mountains around this valley, and it talks about a completely different history than what the archaeologist wants us to believe. Now, I've dealt with the archaeologist before. I've been on the news with this guy before, and I bring this information down from the mountain. I have all the photographs in my book, right? I bring all the petroglyphs down. I've done my homework, all right? It's not my opinion. It's not hearsay, okay? This information has always been there. This information has always been with us, but it's been covered up for the last 80 years because when Holbrook was alive, he handed out little flyers, and you can see that on my website, and it talks about the lost city of Cibola, the lost city of gold, because Charles Holbrook really thought that this was one of the lost cities that the Spanish conquistadors were looking for, the city of gold. But the archaeologist doesn't even want to admit that the Spanish even came this far, but they did. Okay, Charles Holbrook knew it. Okay, and I discovered artifacts up there on South Mountain that proves that the Spanish conquistadors were here on South Mountain. I've dug up so much history and so much evidence. Okay, and this is where the credibility lies. It's someone out on the mountain. It's someone documenting the things in the sky. It's someone actually moving to the mountain for a number of years and watching these things come and go. And over the years, tracking them and figuring out their pattern. Okay, not just hearsay from someone trying to sell you a book and make money and get famous and sell you movie tickets at Harkins Theater. That's not what it's all about here. It's about finding out the evidence and the truth, and that's exactly what I've been doing all these years. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into the announcements. Okay, so I have another YouTube channel, and it's called Haunted Encounter Adventures. And if you're into the paranormal and ghosts and things like that, then make sure you subscribe to my channel. Help me out there. And there's a lot of good, ghost investigations that we've done. And so yeah, Haunted Encounter Adventures. Make sure you check out this new YouTube page, and let me know what you think, man. Make sure you subscribe and check out all the neat stuff that we have explored within the last year or so. The Phoenix Lights, Petroglyphs in the Sky. This is my book right here, folks. Landscape for the Spirits. True stories, myths, legends, and UFOs over Phoenix. By yours truly, Jeff Woolwine. This is 15 years of research, folks. This is not just hearsay. This is colored photographs. I think I have a book right here. This is color photographs. And don't you hate like all these UFO books, right? All these books and it's just, words, okay? They don't have any proof to back them up, right? But this book is just full of photographs, okay? Full of evidence. 15 years of hiking South Mountain, understanding South Mountain, digging up the history of Phoenix, Arizona. And it's not just hearsay, okay? It's credible evidence, and this just isn't like a regular UFO book. This is more of a history book of the lost history of Phoenix, Arizona. This goes into how to understand the petroglyphs, because I learned from the Native Americans how to understand the petroglyphs. It talks about how to see these things in the sky, how to track these UFOs, these UAPs in the sky. And no, I'm not making any money off of this. So I haven't made any dimes off the cable shows that I've done. The History Channel. I've done cable shows with True TV, Jaime Maussan. I've been on tons of news reports, and I do radio shows, and so I'm not making any money out of this. All right, so I told the publishers to give my proceeds of the book to the foster kids in Phoenix, Arizona. Whether they are doing that, I have no idea. But I know for a fact that I'm not making any money off this book. It's not there to make money off of. That's not what I'm all about. I'm about giving this credible information about what the Phoenix Lights is, how the Phoenix Lights is a part of Phoenix, Arizona's history, to you. I bring this information down from the mountain. Just like Moses bringing these commandments down from the mountain, I'm bringing these scrolls, these sacred photographs, this sacred information down from the mountain into your hands. If you cannot get to South Mountain on your own to explore all the stuff that I've discovered out there, I bring the information to you through my book. Now, this, like I said before, it's not hearsay. This is proven facts. The Phoenix Lights, Petroglyphs in the Sky, Landscape for the Spirits. You can find it on eBay, Barnes & Noble, find it on ebooks, things like that. And so yeah, this is a neat little book, and lots of secret information in there that no one else has known about for the last 80 years. All right, and now it's time to bring that information forward. Okay, Vulture City Paracon Part 2 coming live at you guys out there in Wickenburg, Arizona. All right, so I'll be out there doing a ghost hunt. I'll have my equipment out there doing a ghost hunt, and also I'll be doing a lecture out there talking about the Phoenix Lights, talking about the history of Phoenix, Arizona, and first time ever doing a UFO hunt, UFO skywatch out there in Wickenburg, Arizona at Vulture City Mines. Make sure you get your tickets quick, because the VIP tickets, I think, is already sold out. All right, so this is coming in on October 8th, 9th, and 10th. So make sure you get your tickets soon. It's sponsored by Jay and Marie Yates. Great people. Contact them for your tickets. Find them on Facebook, Jay and Marie Yates, or contact Vulture City Mines in Wickenburg, Arizona, for full details. And there's tons of great speakers going to be there, great vendors, and just come on out and let's have a great time. Let's talk about ghosts. Let's do a meet and greet. Bring your books down. I'll be doing autographs down there. Let's do a first time ever Skywatch and Vulture City Mines. Now, James has been contacting me a lot recently and saying that he's seeing lights out there. They're getting UFO activity out there. And why is that? Well, I did a little bit of history, a little bit of ground research on that, and I discovered that, Vulture City, Wickenburg, is sitting on a fault line. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why Wickenburg and Vulture City is a hotbed for UFOs. Also, is because of that energy, because of that fault line. So yeah, so come on out. Let's hope that we see a UFO. And let's do a meet and greet. Can't wait to see you guys out there. It's coming up in October. And let's do a meet and greet. Let's do some sky watching. Let's do some ghost hunting. It's going to be a great, great time. Come on out and let's see you. All right. Okay, so here we go. Let's get this show on the road. Okay, so this petroglyph here is on South Mountain. All right. Now, a lot of understanding of these petroglyphs, you have to look at the whole landscape. Now here is a deer, okay? Now look at the antlers here. You see the antlers? Let's examine these antlers for a minute. And there we got a UFO orb right there. You see that orb right there? But this deer, look at the antlers here, okay? Now when you step back from this petroglyph and you look at the background, you'll see that those antlers are actually trails on the mountain behind where this petroglyph is carved at. So basically this deer is a map, and all these lines here are trails. You can see the trails on the backside of the mountain, behind this petroglyph. When you look at the hill, it's clearly a trail. So that's one way to understand these petroglyphs is, you have to look at the whole landscape to understand what the artist is trying to tell you. And this petroglyph here, he's talking about the trails, the sacred trails, to the next story, to the next petroglyphs. So for instance, sometimes when you see a coyote and he's looking off that direction, you want to follow that coyote because he knows where he's going. He's telling you the next spot, to the next location, to the next story, or to a possible tomb, or to a possible doorway, emergence point for these spirits to come and go from the mountains. Spirits of the earth and sky, a.k.a. Phoenix Lights. Okay. Now, in this glyph here, this is on one of the tombs out there. And you can clearly see, on how this glyph is laying down. See how he's laying down there? And his arms are face down also. Now, normally, these arms, well, normally he would be standing up, and the arms would be in the appeasement pose, meaning upwards. Okay, upwards. But here we have a petroglyph of a man or possible lizard man laying down on a tomb, carved on a tomb here. He's laying down, his arms are down, representing death. Okay, and that's how you know this is a symbol for death. And who knows what's inside this tomb? It could be this lizard man, because in part of my other shows, I talk about the rest of the petroglyphs that's carved on that tomb. And it shows a shaman bringing this dead being, this dead person, if you will, this dead entity, I don't know what it is, into this tomb, right? And then the giants, or somebody huge and big, powerful, covered that tomb up. And you can't get in there. And that's why they made, South Mountain a government park, because of petroglyphs like this and the tombs and the gold that's buried up there. And you go up there and start digging stuff around, you're going to get in serious trouble. And, they don't want you to find out the real history of Phoenix, Arizona. But yeah, this is the evidence here. I'm bringing this evidence to you. So here we have on a tomb a guy that's laying down, possibly a lizard man, because he has a tail. You see that? It's got a very small little tail there. All right, but it's really hard to say because the petroglyph is kind of, it's probably close to 1,000 years old. But it does look like it does have a tail there. So, and his legs and his arms are down, and he's laying down. So yeah, that's a good indication that this being is dead, and that's exactly what's buried in this tomb. Now, here is a famous sighting, March 13th, 1997. And you can see that the Hohokam Indians, the people who are gone, the people who are missing, and because the Hohokam means the people who got taken away, the people who are missing. It's the Hohokam name is a Pima word for the people who are gone, the people who got taken away. The Pima and the Tohono O'odham tribe consider themselves ancestors to the Hohokam. And you can see here that they saw the exact same formation that people witnessed back in 1997, March 13th. And here it's carved on the rocks, anywhere from 700 to 1,000 years old. Now, we can't carbon date the petroglyphs. We can't carbon date the rocks or, anything like that. I mean, well, we can with the rocks, but with the petroglyphs, we can't. How we can determine on when a tribe was there and determine what year and how old some of these artifacts are is mostly from the pottery shards left behind. From the pottery shards, we can determine through carbon dating where the dirt came from, whether it's a native to the land or whether it was brought in from another area. We can also understand how it was made, when it was made, especially like some of these pottery shards. The newer ones anywhere from 500 to 700 years old. The archaeologist likes to call them red on buff because the pottery shards are red, and they estimate the date on that between 5 and 700 years old. Now, some of these older pottery shards, they are not red on buff. They are not red, and a lot of them they're not even glazed over, and that's another indication on how old they are if they're glazed. Now, some of the older ones are not glazed and they're not red, but they're more sand. You can see more sand in it, and you can tell that's really old. That's close to maybe 1,000 years. So we can't carbon date the petroglyphs, but we can carbon date the artifacts left behind, especially with the pottery shards. The pottery shards is a good indication on where the tribe was from, where the dirt was made from, where the pottery shard was made from what dirt, from an area, and things like that. So yeah. Here we have the exact same sighting that happened in March 13th, 1997. The Hohokam Indians and the Mayans witnessed the exact same thing. And that's exactly what these petroglyphs are. They're prehistoric photographs. Prehistoric photographs of, in my mind, they're UFO sightings, man. They're UAPs. Okay? Here's a good example. I don't know how many times I've shown this glyph. It's on my website. It's in my book. But look at this. This is a perfect example on how these creatures, these UAPs, these entities, pick people up. And that's exactly what the story of Phoenix, Arizona consists of. The oral story of Phoenix, Arizona says that the Hohokams were here and they lived here for 1,000 years and things were fine. They were performing sacrifice for these entities in the sky, the Phoenix Lights, the Quetzalcoatl, the flying orbs, and the dots, and the diamonds, and all this stuff that we see in the skies today. They were performing sacrifice unto these beings until one day the sacrificing stopped, and that's when everything went dry, because Phoenix, Arizona wasn't a dried up area. It was more of a tropical-like landscape. And we find evidence of this from the waterfalls down South Mountain and the waterfalls around the mountains of the Valley of the Sun. And I mean, clearly, in fact, the water was pretty high in some areas, because I climbed high up on these hills and I see weathering on the rocks up there. So that's telling me that Phoenix was one time a lake. Okay? That Phoenix was underwater, at least a few, 500 to 600 feet of water. Phoenix was underneath, and over time it, dried out. But the evidence suggests that the water was that high up on the peaks. And so after the sacrificing stopped, that's when everything started to dry up. That's when everything started to die. That's when this landscape, this tropical-like landscape, dried up and the way it sits today. That's why it's all dried up and hot and desolate now, is because the sacrificing stopped unto these Phoenix Lights. They stopped worshiping these Phoenix Lights. Yes, absolutely, Michael. Yes, Parker. He says everything has been underwater from Phoenix to Texas. Oh, yeah, man. Absolutely. And that's when, in my mind, that's when we're talking about the biblical flood. There's so many references and so much archaeology proof that this flood actually existed. It's just without a question, dude. So, yeah, the whole earth was covered with water, and so yeah, not to get off track, but the sacrificing stopped, and that's when the area became dry. And then these things, they said, now some traditions from the Native Americans say that the devil came from the east and took these people away. Now, a lot of misunderstanding when they see these entities in the sky is they mistake a lot of these UFOs for balloons. And why is that? Because they see this line. They see this line coming down, and they automatically assume that's a string. Okay, so we have this orb here, right? This light and this string, if you will, this line, okay, coming down. So a lot of people think that line is a balloon. It's a string. Oh, it must be a balloon. Now, granted, I'm not saying balloons don't exist in the sky. Should they do? But, we have to understand the way they fly, the way they blow in the wind, the way the knots rotate. They go in a circle and this and that and things like this. So we have to understand what balloons look like, so we understand what these UFOs in the sky, these UAPs, look like. So we must study balloons, okay, so we don't, mistake them. 4 balloons. You know, if these things are on a mission, if they're going in a straight line, going against the wind, you know, or no wind, but they're moving in a line, they're not going down, they're not going up, but they're cruising across the sky, and they got this line, and the line isn't blowing with the wind, but the line is staying straight, that's a good indication that that's one of those UAPs, that's one of those entities, that's one of those creatures in the sky. And they use this line here not only to pick up animals, but to pick up people. And that's exactly what this thing is doing, because we see this man here, and we know he's a human. We know that's a regular guy. Why? Because, look, he doesn't have a tail. No tail. That's a man. He doesn't have an orb in his belly either, like most of these petroglyphs are depicting when they have that circle, that orb in the belly. So we know this is a regular man. And look, he's in the appeasement pose, so we know he's alive. We just talked about how to distinguish the dead from alive. And so this guy, his arms are up, indicating that he's alive. And he's being picked up. He's being picked up. He's being carried away. And that's the story here on where the Hohokam people went. All of this I learned from, you know, Charles Holbrook, the first park ranger, in his writings, and you can see his writings on my website, all my YouTube channels, all my YouTube videos. The Phoenix Lights, Petroglyphs in the Sky, the videos. There's a link there in the descriptions to find my my website. And there it talks about Charles Holbrook, and it gives it this little flyer, okay? On that flyer, it talks about the lost city of gold. It talks about how the Hohokam people were taken away. So when this was going on, when these creatures were coming down, picking these people up and taking them off into the sky, never to return, there were witnesses to all this. They hid in caves. This is what Charles Holbrook writes, all this information, and he learned this information from the Native Americans that living in Phoenix, Arizona at that time. Because the Indians trusted Charles. They told Charles where the tombs were, protecting the tombs, and in his book, in his son's book, he talks about his dad and how he was chasing away the gold seekers from South Mountain. So we know the tombs are there. We know the gold is there. You know, all right. So a very respected park ranger in Phoenix, Arizona. Charles Holbrook just wasn't a main dude in Phoenix. I found information on Charles Holbrook in California and Utah and New Mexico. So this guy just wasn't a park ranger in Phoenix. I mean, he had a lot of pull. He was a very respected man in the park and recreation field, if you will. And so it's not just one guy, all right? So he's a very respected man. And why would he write this in his journals? You know, talking about the gold, talking about the tombs, talking about the sacrificing that went on this mountain. I found the altars up there on South Mountain. I found the tombs. I verified everything in that story, the lost city of Cibola. I verified everything to that, what Charles Holbrook is talking about. Even down to the point where, look at the photographs here. Look at this prehistoric photograph of this light, this Phoenix light, this orb has this line coming down and taking this guy up into the sky, right? And when all that was going on, these people, some of them, they hid in the caves. And when it was all over with, they came and they ran to their leaders and they said, "Why did you stop the sacrifice? You upsetted the gods. Look what they've done to our land. They took our people away. Why did you do this? Why did you stop the sacrifice? Everything is dead here now." And the leaders knew that it was wrong to stop the sacrifice, so they committed suicide on the sacrificing altar tables. And then the existing people knew that it was wrong to live in this land. They cursed the Valley of the Sun. They cursed this valley now known as Phoenix, Arizona, formerly known as Mount Zapoa. The mountain of mercy, South Mountain, mountain of mercy, Mount Zapoa. They called this mountain. They cursed this land. They said whoever was going to continue to live in this valley eventually was going to have to go back to the war with these spirits of the earth and sky. So they buried all their gold and all their idols and all their significant tools and weapons and things like that in these caves. And they vowed never to come back to this valley again. They cursed this valley. And they went back to their homeland, and Mexico was their journey home. That's the writings from Charles Holbrook. Now, why would a respected park ranger write in his journals and hand out flyers? Because, you know, I do tours on South Mountain and I talk about the petroglyphs, and that's exactly what Charles Holbrook did. You know, but he kind of went a little far. He showed people where the tombs were, and, you know, some people going up there digging out the tombs, you know, and Charles Holbrook, you know, chasing people off the mountain because of the gold, things like that. I think in my next show I'll talk about Charles Holbrook's lookout, on how he was up there on one of the peaks, you know, chasing people away, looking for the gold seekers. And then after his death, that's the reason why they made South Mountain a government park. Because after his death, they didn't want this information to get out. You know, they wanted to stop this information. They wanted to suppress how the gold was up there, how the mines was up here, you know, how these spirits of the earth and sky, aka Phoenix Lights, actually took away the Hohokam people. They don't want this. They don't want this information to be out no more. So after his death in the late 1940s, they buried all this information. They tucked it away in a folder in the Phoenix Library, and it's been sitting there for the last 80 years. And exploring South Mountain and finding all this stuff, you know, I finally went to the library, you know, and see what I could dig up on South Mountain, and lo and behold, there it was. All this information, you can find it on my website, was sitting there, you know, for the last 80 years. It hasn't been talked about, but verified. Everything that I was finding the first year, I'm up there on South Mountain. I'm finding the tombs. I'm finding the sacrificing altars. You know, I'm finding, you know, Mayan petroglyphs out there. I'm understanding the petroglyphs. I called down a shaman from one of the museums in Phoenix, Arizona, to teach me the petroglyphs, and it's just all going crazy, dude. I'm like, whoa, wait, what is up with this? Why isn't the archaeologists talking about this stuff? You know, it's because they don't want people going up there and digging it up, discovering the gold, you know, rewriting Phoenix, Arizona's history the way we know it today. They're buried. They covered up this information. And this is the only place that we're going to find the true history of Phoenix, Arizona, is right here on the Phoenix Lights, Petroglyphs in the Sky show. And in my book. All the years I've been doing this. This is not hearsay. This is credible stuff. From the first park ranger, from the Hohokam Indians, from the tour guides, from the Native American shaman, from the Indian Art Museum. You know, I did my homework, okay? This is all the information. This is all stuff that's always been here. This is fact. This is not just this is not my opinion. This is proven fact. And this is what it's saying about the Phoenix Lights. The line representing contact. Well, no contact being picked up into the sky. Yeah, but clearly we can see this man being carried up, lifted up, and there's so many other petroglyphs out there depicting this. Sometimes they carry away coyotes and deers and stuff like that. You know, I've seen petroglyphs of the swastikas with this line picking up a deer. Things like that. So it's a line for picking things up and carrying them off into the sky. Why were they picked up? Because they were because the sacrificing had stopped. No reason we haven't found an explanation on why the Hohokam people disappeared. You know, the archaeologist wants us to believe, well, you know, they've simply migrated somewhere else. But the oral tradition and the facts on the mountain and all the proof is talking about how these creatures, these Phoenix Lights, pick these people up. Now, the oral tradition says, the story says that they got taken away because the sacrificing had stopped. Once because they were sacrificing human beings, people, shedding blood down the altars, just like in Mexico with the Mayans and the Aztec. There was sacrifice in there, the hearts being torn out, things like that, and the bodies being rolled down the pyramids. It's exactly the same stuff that was going on here in Phoenix. I mean, after all, look, back in the day, part of Arizona was a part of Mexico, so sure, the Mayans were here, you know. And what if the Hohokam Indians were the Mayans? You know, some people would even think that the Hohokam Indians were maybe the Anunnaki, things like that. So we'll get into that maybe a little bit later, but some of my other shows I do talk about the Anunnaki and how it is relevant to these petroglyphs that we find on South Mountain, on the mountains around Phoenix. So after the sacrificing stopped, and nobody knows why, that's when everything dried up. You know, that's when Phoenix, Arizona became a desolate, dried up land, a desert, because the blood was stopped being spilled down the rocks of this holy mountain. So it upset the Phoenix Lights. There's a lot of things, a lot of studies that I have encountered, that I discovered that, you know what, these things, these creatures in the sky, they feel that we're noisy. We're a noisy animal. They don't like the noise. And I think that's one of the reasons why when people start to go to war with each other, I mean, look at like World War II, these airplanes, these airplanes that were following these Foo Fighters in the sky, these red orbs, the Phoenix Lights, whatever, you know, these lights in the sky, they're following these lights, you know, during World War II. And I think it's because of all the noise. You know, and they feel that these entities, these Phoenix Lights, these creatures, they feel that mankind is very noisy, very loud, and it disturbs them. They don't like that. And but that, you know, that's one thing that I found out later. But the story of Phoenix says that when the sacrificing stopped, that's when these entities came from the east and took these people away. What were they originally searching for? I'm not really sure what you mean. I'm not sure, you know, who was searching for what. So maybe clarify on that and I can get back to you. But yeah, so that's exactly what happened to the Hohokam people. Hohokam people are the people who got taken away, the people who are missing. And because they got carried away, that's exactly what happened to these people. They were taken away. Now, it just didn't happen here in Phoenix, Arizona. This explanation goes on around the earth when there was a tribal of humans, a race of humans, a tribe that ruled their land for like thousands of years, and all of a sudden they disappeared. You know, at the exact same time of when the Hohokam people disappeared. So it all happened basically all at the same time. Where did they go? They were taken away. Okay, so it looks like my background disappeared. So, excuse me for 1 second. So a new show with new bugs in it that we haven't worked out yet. So bear with me 1 second as we figure out the background, because we got to have that background going on. Okay. Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay, there we go. Okay. All right, so what were they originally sacrificing for? So a lot of scholars and a lot of archaeologists say that you know, because they would be sacrificing during the equinox, during the solstice and things like that, because of the tracking of the sun. So they wanted to make sure not only to please these beings, these creatures in the sky, the Phoenix Lights, but also to make sure that the sun would keep rotating in the sky, so they would live, so they would, you know, be able to plant their crops and things like that. So it was a combination of both. They wanted to make sure that the sun would keep rising in the sky, and it was also sacrificing to these creatures as a type of, you know, worship. you know, and that's exactly what these beings want. They want us to worship them. Once again, that's the reason why they're not making any contact with us now, is because we don't need them. Look at Earth's history, especially from the Indians' point of view. They say that we're in so many worlds, right? And each world, each time a new world comes into existence, these creatures from the earth and sky are there to help mankind out, to teach them how to survive. That's exactly what had happened with the Hohokams. The Hohokam Indians followed these lights to South Mountain in Phoenix, Arizona. And they didn't know how to live here. So these beings came down from the heavens, up from the sand world, and they taught these people how to survive. The Hopis say that they learned how to weave their baskets from Spider-Woman weaving her web in the sky. That's how the Hopis learned how to weave their baskets. That's one of the reference points here. That's one of the examples. So they taught these people the secret incantations, the secret ways in which mankind was not meant to understand. You know, there's a lot of evidence saying that back in the day that mankind actually reached the moon. They had technology to reach the moon. All right, was it alien technology? No, it was these beings, these creatures that taught the people how to reach the heavens, how to make their own spaceship. Because look at the Mayan tomb out there in Mexico. Okay, the moon pyramid. Look at the moon pyramid. That's the top of the sarcophagus lid shows. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Shows a Mayan in a spaceship. He's got his oxygen mask on, or whatever, and his foot's on a lever, and there's fire coming down from the ship, and his hands on a device on a lever. So yeah, you know, he is going to the heavens. Is it showing an alien being? Is it showing a bug-eyed creature? No, it's showing a man, a Mayan or an Aztec man reaching the heavens. I believe that they went to the moon. And where did they learn these things from? From these beings of the earth and sky. Now, these things are not from another planet. This is their planet also. They were cast down. They are here. This is like their prison. This world is their world too. And they are here to deceive mankind. They want man to worship them as gods. This is why this is why they're not making contact with us now. It's because we don't need them. They are waiting because they know that this world is about to end. That's why so many of them are coming out now. They're coming down, or they're coming up from their prison. The gate has been unlocked. For the last 80 years, these things have been coming up, and more is coming. And that's why, you know, finally the government's, you know, trying to admit, yeah, okay, everybody's seeing them, you know. That's why, because there's so many here now. They're getting ready for this new world to begin. Because once this new world begins, that's when mankind will need these beings again once more, like at the time in the beginning. So it will be in the time in the end. These beings will be here for man to worship them as gods once before, and to you know, sacrifice, and these things are going to be clearing up the air, cleaning up the water. I mean, it's like it's like the book of Revelations. That's exactly what we are looking at here. It's not a metaphor. The dragon coming up out of the sea, that's not a metaphor for a submarine coming up out of the water. No, they're talking about a real dragon, dude. They're talking about Quetzalcoatl, the creatures. That's a whole another story there. They used a lot of information that were taught by these creatures in the sky, yes. So, okay, let's go back to these petroglyphs. Here we have, look at this right here. This is on South Mountain. And I want you to concentrate on this area here. See this cluster? And look at the rest. The rest of these petroglyphs has been carved out. They don't want, somebody has carved this out. Somebody has carved this story out. Either they took it home for a souvenir, or they don't want people to know exactly what was going on here. But this is like 32nd Street and baseline of South Mountain, high up on the rock there, high up on the mountain. And look at this cluster. You see these orbs? All these, now, some people like to call these things fleets. They call them a fleet. That's a fleet of orbs. All right, so let's leave that there for a minute. I think the next picture, yeah. So look at this here. Now this is something that occurred in Nuremberg, Germany. All right, this is a sketch. Now this is a 1566 UFO sighting, and it was copied down later in 1561. Look at the orbs. Okay, so they were seeing these orbs too, right? Nuremberg, Germany. The exact same type of petroglyphs that we see here from the Hohokam Indians on South Mountain. So we have these cluster of orbs, and we have the cluster of orbs here on the petroglyphs. See the examples here? The exact same thing. This has been going on for thousands of years. These creatures in the sky are nothing new. This isn't anything new. These things have always been with us. So we have the petroglyphs that were carved about 1,000 years ago, and then we have even older reference of these creatures here on South Mountain, the exact same entity, if you will. So here we go again. Same type of painting from Germany. And then we have the petroglyphs on South Mountain. This is very significant here. Here we have a type of jumping jack. And then we have the exact same one over here, along with all these other orbs and scrolls and things like that. The exact same creatures were seen back then. Now, during 9/11, I was living in New York during 9/11, and I was about 150 miles away from Ground Zero when the towers fell. And there was a no-fly zone. There was a no-fly zone in effect, and for like a week. And all of a sudden, my son comes running out. Dad, a UFO, a UFO. So I look out the window, and sure enough, I see the exact same formations, the exact same thing that we see here going over our heads, about, I don't know, a few hundred feet up. There were 4 silver spheres, and they were connected together. And they were going counterclockwise, right over our heads. The exact same things that we find out here on South Mountain, the exact same thing that we see on these pictures drawn in 1566, I believe it was. And as these jacks went over our heads, over the apartments, it was heading towards the park. And then I looked ahead, something caught my eye ahead, and it was another silver ball, silver orb, and it had this white tail on it and a red tip. And it was moving towards the jacks. It was going to merge with the jacks. Now the jacks went over and I lost them in the trees along with this orb. And then in 2005, I'm up there on South Mountain and I see the exact same petroglyph that I saw in New York go over our heads. Is that crazy? I only wish I would have had a video camera back then. I mean, after that, that was it. After I saw that sighting, compared to like all the other sightings that I was witnessing in Phoenix, I'm thinking to myself, what the hell am I doing in New York? I need to go back home because I was born and raised in Phoenix. What am I doing in New York? I need to get my ass back to Phoenix and actually go on a hunt. I'm going to find out exactly what's going on. It was that sighting, okay, that just made up my mind, and the sightings that I saw prior, before I moved in Phoenix, before I moved to New York. And then after I saw that in New York, I was like, dude, that's it. I'm going back to Phoenix. So that's what I did in 2004. I went back and I made a hunt on a quest to find out exactly what was going on in our city. Okay, so we're going to talk about one of the tombs on South Mountain. So before I get started, I want to give you a little story. This is in my book. A good hiking buddy of mine, Jason, we used to hike South Mountain all the time and explore together all the time. And he was telling me that his dad's like 60, 70, probably pushing about 80 now. His dad's pretty old. He says his dad, when he was a kid, used to play hide and seek up on South Mountain. And he said that he was playing in this dried up wash, and there was a tree right there. And he went behind the tree, and there was a big hole on the side of the canyon, because there's like you can see it right there on the photograph. There's like this canyon wall right there, right? The dried up wash is right there. And there's a big tree. You can see the tree right there. There's a tree. Here's a dried up wash. And then so he was able to get behind that tree. And when he did, he says it opened up. It was like a cave. And he went down into that cave, and there were carved out steps. He says he went down into the steps, and all along the walls were chains and Spanish conquistadors' helmets and breastplates. He said he went down in deeper and opened, and it came up to this huge chamber, and this light coming down from the top of the ceiling, projecting on the floor, lighting up the chamber. From there, he saw other helmets and breastplates all along the wall. He says he got scared and he got the hell out of Dodge. He left. And he had forgotten about the place. He had forgotten how to get back there. This and that. So his dad told Jason this. And so the whole time Jason and I are up there exploring South Mountain, we came across this area here. And I saw the tree and the dried up wash right here. And here's the tree. All right. So I went and checked that out a little bit further. Now we can see, here's another photograph of it. We can see the wash here. There's a dried up wash, just like what his dad explained. And then here's the tree. And then look what's behind the tree. Look at that. There's an opening there. Here is another picture of it. We're getting closer now. And you can really start to see on the opening. You can see this. Look at that there. This is a cave. This is a cave. You can really see on how the tree is covering up the cave. There's another picture of it, and that arrow is showing the opening. It's showing the opening. See that there? You can clearly tell. You can clearly see there's an opening there right behind this tree. And there's the dried up wash. Just like what his dad explained. And I'm like, dude, this has got to be it. This has to be it. This has to be. And it wasn't that far either, because, you know, when kids are you know, playing on South Mountain, they're not going to go high up on the mountain. They're going to stay pretty much on the bottom, you know, of the ground. And that's exactly where this area is on the ground. It's at the base of South Mountain on Holbrook Trail, on far west of Holbrook Trail. It's kind of tricky to get there. Now, look at these blocks here. You see all these rocks here? Look at all these slabs. And you can tell on how there's like, this right here is new rock. See how white that is? And this is old rock. All right? New rock and old rock. So this boulder here, along with some of these other boulders, came from within. This is some of the debris that was carried out when they were making this entrance, when they were making this tomb. And this is one of the boulders that came from inside the tomb. And we can tell because of the new rock has been chipped away, has been cut up compared to the old rock. That's how we know. That's how we can distinguish. And this is right in front. This is laying right in front of the tomb. There's the tree right here. And there's the entrance to the tomb. And here's all these boulder rocks that have been placed. They've been thrown out, carried out from, that's debris from the carving, from the making of the tomb. Now, on the left side of this are these strange markings. Look at this. And this is not Hohokam. These markings are not Hohokam markings. This looks to me like a type of possible language. This is not Hohokam carvings. This is something different. I thought that was very interesting. That's the only petroglyph in this area. And it's carved on the left side of the entrance of this tomb. This is looking inside the tomb now. We're inside the entrance. We're behind the tree. And when you look closely, let me move this up more. When you look closely, you can see all the cut marks, all the chisel marks. See that there? You can really see on how they cut this out. Look at that. Look at those lines right there and right there. This was cut out. All this area has been chiseled out and carved out. Look at that there. See that? And it's hidden behind this tree. Here's another photograph of inside the hole behind the tree. You can really see that now. And you can tell it's an old tree. That tree's been sitting there for, I don't know how long, but it's been there for a while. At least 80 years, ever since, you know, Jason's dad was here. And we can examine it again. We can take a look at the top and we can distinguish how all these cut marks, these chisel marks, look at that there. See that? You can really see the chisel. You can see on how they were chiseling, they were cutting all this away. You can really see the lines there. Look at that. See that there? That's how you know that these things, this was carved out. This is a man-made cave. Now, this is looking inside of it now. Now look at all this dirt. See that? And that's what his dad described. That's what Jason was describing. His dad described that there was a boulder. Here's a boulder, right? There's a boulder that was in front of it to seal the cave up. But he says that, you know, because his dad was just a small boy at the time, and he was able to squeeze in through this passageway. Now, all this dirt here, Arizona has a lot of dust storms, and they like to call them haboobs, okay? And it's like massive, massive waves of dirt. So over the last 80 years, all the dust storms that Phoenix has gathered has covered up the entrance, has covered up most of the entrance here. Look at this crack here. All this dirt is all fresh dirt. And then there's a huge boulder that has been placed inside. Michael wants to know, have I ever entered any of the tombs? I've gotten close, you know, because we can't go in there and dig them up. All right, so hopefully, maybe in my lifetime, somebody will actually have the balls to go over there and discover the tombs, you know, that I'm showing here, have found the tombs, and actually start digging them up. See, I'm just a messenger. Okay, I'm going to bring this information to you. Okay, so if I go in there, I can't really say, look, because it's a government park, I can't go in there and dig stuff up and then tell people, look what I found, because I'll go to prison. All right? And so I'm just bringing the information here. I'm leaving everything the way it is. I'm taking photographs. I'm presenting the evidence for the next person to come around and say, look, Jeff says there's a tomb here. Let's investigate it. Let's check it out. All right, so I'm not going to get in trouble. All right, that's why they made South Mountain a government park, because they don't want you to go into these tombs like the one here and, you know, discover the breastplates and the Spanish conquistador helmets that are here, supposedly in this tomb here. I believe this tomb was once a Mayan tomb, okay, or a Holcomb tomb, and then the Spanish used this tomb. They took the corpse and whatever that was in this tomb, and they used it for their own selves. Somewhere along the way, there must have been a great leader that died on South Mountain, and they used this tomb to bury him on. And that's the reason why now there are Spanish breastplates along this wall with helmets and chains, because the Spanish took the Hohokam or the Mayan stuff that was in the tomb, probably a lot of gold. So they used that gold. They took the gold and they put their significant man in there, a person of significant importance in there. I'll dig it up. Go out there and check it out, brother. You know, I'm waiting for somebody to go and actually do this. You know, I'm bringing the information to you, so now it's up to you to go out there and do it. I'm not telling you to do it. You didn't hear that from me. But, you know, I think eventually we need to open up at least one tomb. Okay, come on, guys. We know they're out there. All right, look at the evidence. Look at the proof. So we need to go to ASU College down there and talk to these amateur archaeologists and have them go out there and excavate at least one tomb. All right, because part of the legend says that the Phoenix Lights, the lights are actually guarding the tombs on South Mountain, because they're waiting for the Mayans to return and claim all the gold for this next world to come into play, and they're going to use the same gold that they used back 1,000 years ago, and the gold and the all the artifacts that's in there. They're going to reuse it again once mankind needs these beings to survive. So basically, the story says the Phoenix Lights and the Quetzalcoatl and the orbs and the diamonds and all these UFOs, the UAPs that we see in the skies above Phoenix now, are actually guarding these tombs for the Mayans to come back and reclaim the gold. But I think we need to open up at least one tomb. You know, that will verify more evidence of where we came from, because this just isn't this history. This is our history, all right? This is mankind's history. We need to know. This stuff has been covered up for 80 years, all right? So we need to open up at least one tomb. Okay, yeah, so Michael says that he'll wiggle his way in there. So when I was doing a tour, let me see what this next picture is. Okay, when I was doing a tour on South Mountain, I took this family up there, and I'm showing them this tomb, okay, and we're talking about it, all right. And this 10-year-old little boy was with us. And I had a flashlight with me, and I was like, dude, because, you know, I can't squeeze back in there. And I said, if your parents are okay, can you climb up on that boulder? Because there's a boulder in front of this, you know, in front of the opening. And now the little crack is there, and it's all covered up, right? Dirt. So I asked the little boy, you know, here's a flashlight. Climb up on that boulder and look and see what you can see. Because you're small enough, you know? Because that was about the size of Jason's dad when he was out there playing, and he found the artifacts inside the tomb because he was able to squeeze through that opening. So he did. He climbed up on that boulder like a champ, used that flashlight, and was telling me, yeah, there's an opening, but it's all covered up with dirt. I was like, damn, really? I was like, man, you did it. You verified that beyond this boulder is another opening, is a doorway. You know, you just verified it. You did it, brother. I was so proud of that kid. You know, I should have had him go back there and take photographs, but he had a hard enough time with the flashlight, carrying the flashlight up there, up on that boulder, looking down in there, that I didn't want him to drop the camera or anything. But he told me, he's like, yeah, there's an opening behind that boulder, but it's covered up with dirt. So yeah, that just verified Jason's story. It verified everything that we discovered out there. So yeah, there is something there. There's a tomb there, and it's on Holbrook Trail. It's just west of Holbrook Trail. You're gonna have to get up the trail a little bit and go down that wash. Find the wash. When you do, follow it, and you'll bump into it. You will see. First, you'll see an altar. There's an altar there, oriented towards the east. Beyond that altar is the tomb. Do you think they're all activity being watched well, or can one spend a couple of days in one? If you're talking about a tomb, you're not allowed to get into the tombs. Like I said, so somebody big and powerful had put these boulders in these tombs to cover up the doorways. I wouldn't want to spend a night on South Mountain because there's a lot of livestock up there. We got snakes, we got scorpions, we got javelinas. We have a lot of coyotes up there. And so, yeah, it's not safe. You're not allowed to camp up there also. If the Park and Recreation people found you up there camping or spending the night, you get a ticket or a fine or go to jail. It's not safe to spend a night up there. And I would never do it, you know, because I'm not crazy about the wildlife. I have bumped into a lot of coyotes. I've bumped into a lot of javelina up there. I bumped into snakes. I've seen the little baby scorpions running around. So yeah, I've been in a lot of danger going up there on South Mountain. Those rocks are sharp. The rocks are very sharp, like glass. If you fall and fall on one of the rocks and one of the boulders, it will cut you. I have found that out many times. I've slipped and fell, and it cut me up pretty good. It's very dangerous. That mountain is very dangerous. A lot of stuff could actually kill you. I think when the archaeologist was up there, they discovered a body up there. I guess someone fell off a cliff or something and got killed up there. So yeah, South Mountain is very dangerous. But I loved it. I did it. You know, I was doing it for like 17, 18 years. I love climbing up there and exploring, and I love the danger aspect of it. And when you see the livestock, I mean, I've had a wild pig run right in front of me. And the thing of it is, with those pigs, they can't see more than 5 or 6 feet ahead in front of them. And I came across one. They stand they don't move. They stand still. They don't move at all. And I just came right up on one thinking it was a bush or something. And no, dude, I got 3 feet in front of him. Boom. He took off, man. Got the hell out of Dodge. I'm glad he ran that way and not at me. You know, so it's very crazy. I got stuck up there one time. It got really crazy. It got really intense. I was up high on a ledge one time. And I looked down and I saw Mama Pig with a bunch of baby pigs, and they're coming up on the hill. They're coming right towards me. They're coming up in my direction. They're coming down. I was high up on the hill, and they're coming up at me. The Mama Pig and all the baby pigs are coming up, and I'm like, "Oh shit!" I didn't want to go up higher because that was getting more dangerous. And the only way down, the only way out of that area was down. And I heard another pig on the other side of the rock where I was at, on the other side of the boulder, because I'm standing in front of a boulder, and the pigs are coming up on this trail up this way. And then beyond this is a pig, another pig, probably the daddy pig, on the other side of the boulder. I heard him snarling up there. And I thought maybe if I threw a rock, because I didn't want to go down. You know, I didn't want. I've already climbed up there. All right, you know, I knew the pigs, and you don't want to mess with Mama and their baby pigs. That's just the bad news, dude. You know, so I didn't want to go down, and I didn't want to go up because that's more climbing up higher in the deeper territory. I wanted to go right, but that's where Daddy Pig was. So I thought maybe if I threw a rock, I would scare Daddy Pig and make him go down or make him go somewhere else. So I threw the rock over the boulder to try to scare him, and what did that do? That scared a coyote. There was a coyote there, too, that I didn't know about. Now, that pissed him off. He's all yelping at me. Yelp, 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 yelp. Oh, my God. And then the pig started snarling. Oh, my God, dude. That was it. I'm gone. I'm out of here, dude. Mama Pig's almost up on me with their piglets. Daddy Pig's over here. And now I pissed off a coyote. Okay? Now it's time to go, dude. So I just hightailed it down. You know, it was very treacherous, very steep. But I wanted to get the hell out of Dodge because I knew I was in danger. After I pissed off the pig and pissed off the coyote, it was only a matter of time when I was going to piss off the mother pig. I had to get out of there. So I haultailed it down. I ran down the mountain, down that steep hill, and I fell. I tripped. I fell. I rolled, and I hit this rock, and it cut the hell out of my arm. And the whole time, that coyote's up there yelping at me, and I'm not looking behind. I'm just getting the hell out of. I'm running. You know, I want to get out of danger. I knew I was in a big shit. I had to get out of there. I ran down that mountain so fast, not looking behind me. But I swear to God, it sounded like that coyote was right on my heels. Yelp, 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 because it echoed. It echoed in the canyon, so it sounded louder than what it was. And I thought for sure that coyote's running after me, dude. You know, I fell, I rolled, I cut my arm. I eventually got down off the mountain. I looked back up, and that's when Mama Pig was up there joining with Daddy Pig. And I never did see the coyote, but I sure did hear him, you know. So it is very dangerous on South Mountain. I wouldn't recommend spending the night up there. And if you're going to hike the trails, you're going to get off the trails and explore like I do, be careful. Let people know where you're at. That's one of the things that I didn't. When my son went to school, that's when I went up on the mountain and explored, and I didn't tell anybody where I was. So I could have got killed. I could have died, and nobody would have known where I was, and my son wouldn't have known where his daddy was. You know, so it was a bad thing of what I was doing, but I needed to get it done. It was part of my research. You know, I wanted to find out more of South Mountain, the Phoenix Lights, the history. I wanted to verify everything, you know. And so I spent a lot of times, running into snakes, rattlesnakes, and so yeah, it's very dangerous up there, and just be careful when you're hiking. Okay, so another mountain we have out here in Phoenix called Camelback Mountain. Oh my. Now, why do they call it Camelback Mountain? Oh, well. Look at that camel's hump there. See that? And then you can kind of see the camel's head there behind the tree. This is Camelback Mountain. Look at the hump there. That's why they call it Camelback Mountain. Now, this mountain here, I never found any petroglyphs carvings on this mountain. And I think the reason is because I think just the stuff that we're going to talk about that I'm going to show you here in a minute, all the stuff that's on Camelback Mountain, all the natural formations and stuff like that, and other things that are there, I think it was more of like, I think it kind of scared the Indians to be up on that mountain. And I'm going to show you why here in a minute. Because, they everything that they see, it has a meaning to it. The cracks in the stone, that's the doorways. So all the landscape is sacred. All the landscape, the rocks, the boulders, the rocks on the mountains are the bones of the world. The mountains and the boulders are the bones of the world. And, so when they see something and it triggers them, I think I might have gotten ahead of myself here. Okay. Then, it kind of makes them, kind of eerie about stepping foot on this mountain here, because I didn't find any evidence of them living there. I might have found some evidence of cowboys being up there and some old, campfires and things like that, but I didn't really see any Indian evidence of the Indians being there. Now, this is on This is on Camelback Mountain. Okay, so I'm exploring. I'm walking through Camelback Mountain. That's a real neat picture there. Okay. And then I noticed this when I get closer. Now look at this here. Isn't this interesting? Now when you look closely, you can see steps. You see the steps going up here? And look at this here. Look at this rock here, out in the middle of nowhere. High up on the hill of Camelback Mountain, we find steps. Giant steps leading up to maybe an altar or some kind of table. But look how big that is, right? That would be something that a giant would either sit on or maybe have his dinner on, or, maybe eat human consumption, okay? Because that's the story of these giants, and there were giants here in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm going to show you one here in a minute on Camelback Mountain. But look at this. Look at the stairs going up to this altar or this table. That's suit for a giant. I mean, look at that. Is that crazy or what? That is real cool. That is neat. That's high up in the canyon on Camelback Mountain. Now, we are going on the same canyon, but going in a different direction. Now, this canyon here kind of like V shapes. And there's a lot of people who like to scale these rocks. There's been a lot of accidents, people trying to climb up these rocks, the sides of these rocks here, and especially like on the other side of this canyon. Not so much this canyon, but mostly on the other side. There's a rappel rope there and a lot of gear for people to practice rappelling off mountains, mostly on the backside, but this is on the other side, and this is like this valley canyon here. And going up into this, I ran into a lot of livestock. There's like a type of like iguana lizard up there. I'm trying to think of the name of the lizard. The chakwa. The chakwa. I think that's how you spell it. I think that's how it is. The chakwa lizard. I think that's it. And there's a lot of lizards up there in this valley, and they hiss at you and they chase you. Okay, especially when you get close to their nest. And I ran into at least a few hundred of them up here in this valley of Camelback Mountain. And they were hissing and they were chasing me, and it got pretty intense. Here's another. We're getting deeper into the valley now, and you can see on how it's starting to close up. And that's a pretty picture. You can see the blue sky. You can actually now you can see how the valley closes up. It's closing in on itself. Look at that. Isn't that neat? And the blue sky. And the lizards. The lizards. I mean, these things are huge, man. And they bite. They got teeth in them. So I really had to be careful to go around their nest. And there's boulders there and stuff like that. Okay, and look at this. This is looking out from the canyon. We're in the canyon now, and look at that. Isn't that a great shot? We're high up on Camelback. We're in the valley. And right behind me is a bunch of lizards. And they're hissing and yelling at me. Okay, so I'm just watching my step. And I'm taking this photograph here. Isn't that a great photograph? It is so pretty up there on these mountains. See, that's one of the advantages, you know, of exploring South Mountain and exploring the mountains around Phoenix is the views that you get, you know, and the history. Because when you're up there, you can actually feel, you know, the history, and you can actually become one with nature, and it's all worth it when you're up there exploring. So it's really great, and you get some fantastic views. So, in the back of this canyon, we are getting close to the end of the canyon here. All right, we saw what it looks like up top. Now this is on the bottom. Now look at this here. Look at this cave. Look at that. You see that entrance there? We're getting closer. We're getting closer to the back of this valley canyon. All right. That's what it looks like when you're walking up on it. Now here, we're right on it. Now this is about as close as I got, because look at what's up there on the right. You see that? That is an active beehive. Okay? And there's a lot of people that get stung full of bees and actually got killed by these bees from high up on the rocks up there because of this beehive here. This is an active beehive. Now look at this here. This is like a cave or an entrance. In my book, I put the entrance is open, and John actually goes inside this cave, and he finds a chamber under Skull Rock, and we're gonna show you Skull Rock here in just a minute. I believe it's the next picture, but in my book, John explores this cave, and there's all kinds of gold and everything else that's in Camelback Mountain. And that right there, if you can get close to it, is one of the openings to a tomb, to a chamber. Now, I'm sure most of it now has been covered up and closed off. But you can clearly see on how one time, I mean, look how it's been cut. Look at that. That is an entrance. That is an entrance to a cave. And you know, the government puts stuff there to deter people away from these tombs, like beehives and bee boxes and stuff like that. It's a perfect defense of keeping people out of what's finding there, out of what's there, because the government purposely puts these bees in places around the mountains, in certain spots of the mountains, to keep people away from finding out the truth, from keeping people away from these tombs. That is one of the defenses there. Now, in front, here is Camelback Mountain. This is seen from the parking lot area. Now look at this mountain. Look at Skull Rock. And that's me. That's little old me right there. I'm on top of Skull Rock on Camelback Mountain. Now in my book, I put a tomb, a big gold opening tomb, under that rock, under Skull Rock. Look how big it is compared to me. Look at the size of this boulder, of this formation. And this is the reason why I think that the Indians pretty much stayed away from Camelback Mountain, not only because of, the giant altar that's up there, but look at the skull on that. That would be kind of, scary or taboo to the Indians. Chuckwalla, yes, thank you, Pam. And the eyes and the nose, and the head, and everything about this mountain is spooky in its own right, And I think the Indians, because I didn't find any evidence of the Indians living there, or any petroglyphs or anything like that, I felt that it was mostly, kind of taboo. And they thought it was probably a cursed mountain because of that Skull Rock. You're not going to find this information anywhere else, people, but here. Now, looking from the parking lot, you can see Skull Rock. You can see Skull Rock there, and it's buried. See that? And then over here, you can see a giant, and he has been turned to stone. And that's the story here. That is the story on where these giants went during the mass flood. Especially when it comes to the Superstition Mountains. Now, a lot of these people are thinking that, the superstition is, they're all looking for the lost Dutchman's gold mine. But according to the Indians, that mountain is more holy and more sacred than a lost Dutchman's gold mine. The story on the Superstition Mountains, according to the Indians, is when the biblical flood was coming, the water was coming, and the lead giant told his people to run up on this boulder, run up on this huge boulder, because he didn't want his people to drown. The flood was coming, the waters were coming. And so the lead giant used his power to raise this boulder up. But the water kept coming. He used his power more and moved that boulder up. But the water kept coming. He raised this boulder. Now it was the size of a huge mountain. And his people are still up on top. But the water kept coming. And at his last bit of strength, because he didn't want his people to drown, he immortalized them by turning them all to stone. And when he did that, that's when the water stopped. And to this day, you can look upon the Superstition Mountains and you can see the water line on where the water had stopped from the great flood. And to this day, you can still see the giants still up there turned to stone. You can still see the giants up there turned to stone. And on Camelback Mountain, you can see another giant that was turned to stone as he was hiding avoiding the floodwater. He got turned to stone on Camelback Mountain. That is a giant that has been turned to stone, people. That is a story from the Native Americans who knew about the giants here in Phoenix, Arizona, who carved the giants on the rocks. The evidence of giants, and on some of my past shows, I talk about these giants up there on the mountains of South Mountain in Phoenix. Okay, it looks like that is it. So let's get to this unbelievable UAP. This is going to blow your mind away. This is going to be crazy. Let's take a look at this here. This was filmed in 2017. Is that crazy or what? Look at this thing. Look at this object. It's coming down. Now, this is incredible. This is great, great footage. Look at this creature. Now it stops. Now look what it's doing. Let's stop this for a minute. Look at this. Is that incredible or what? This is what we're dealing with, ladies and gentlemen. This is not a spaceship. This is not an alien in a spacecraft. This thing is alive. Look at that. Oh my God, look at that. Is that crazy or what? This is what we are dealing with in our skies. This is not technology. This is another living being. This is a life form. Look at that thing. That is just insanely crazy. This is the kind of things that can be proven. I mean, sure, why not? Spaceships, alien technology, little gray man living in people's closets. I'm open to that. Okay, I want to see that. All right. I have seen some things, don't get me wrong. I have seen some things that could resemble a spaceship. You know, like the jacks that I mentioned earlier. I've seen a black triangle in the sky over South Mountain. Things like that, right? But just because it looks like a craft doesn't necessarily mean that it is. I think the evidence suggests that these things are living beings, living entities, than anything else in our skies that can be proven. We have to look at the evidence. We have to examine what we can prove. We cannot go on hearsay. We have to look at what we see for our own eyes. We can't look at CGI videos. We can't look at CGI photographs. We can't read books and novels about things, you know, people are saying, oh, you know, it's a spaceship with no evidence. Because there's so many hoaxers out there who are trying to make money, and that's what the problem is, especially on YouTube. They fake these UFO videos. They make them go viral, and they get paid every time someone clicks on their video. Okay, so they're hoaxing all these UFO videos of spaceships and aliens and little gray guys. For you, that is a clickbait. For you to click on there and pay them. These people are drawing off other people's ignorance, all right, without looking at the facts and what can be proven. And what can be proven is stuff that has been written anywhere from 3,000 to 7,000 years old, from the biblical texts, from the Anunnaki texts, from the Sumerian texts, and what we can see carved on the rocks of the mountains, especially in Phoenix, Arizona, and some of these other stuff or other petroglyphs carved around the world when it explains what these people back then saw in the skies. And are they depicting spaceships or crafts? No, they are depicting another life form. Flying serpents, flying entities in the sky, flying creatures, UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena. Okay? That is what is really here, folks. That is what we can prove. That is what's proven. We see it in our eyes. We see the prehistoric photographs of the Hohokam people who carved their sightings on the rocks around Phoenix, Arizona. The Phoenix Lights, the Quetzalcoatls, the flying orbs, the flying diamonds, the flying serpents. And then we can read the stuff in some of these biblical texts and some of these Anunnaki scriptures and some of these Sumerian texts. It describes, it's telling us what these things are. The photographs carved on the mountains from the Indians are showing us what to look for. Now we see them in the skies today, above our heads. So what does that say about our future? If the Native Americans in Phoenix, Arizona saw the Phoenix Lights, dealt with the Phoenix Lights, interacted with the Phoenix Lights for 1,000 years, and then one day they ended up missing, they turned up missing, they were taken away by the Phoenix Lights, then what does that say about our future? What does that say about our future? Because we see the Phoenix Lights now in our skies. We see the flying diamonds. We see the flying orbs. We see all these creatures now in our skies, and more is coming. And so what does that say about our future? Are we going to end up like the Hohokams and disappear? Are we going to be taken away by these creatures from the earth and sky? Is 1 Thessalonians when it says we will be caught up in the clouds? The preachers call this a type of rapture. Is that what they're talking about? These creatures, these beings, coming down and taking people away up into the skies? That is why there will never be disclosure. They will never tell you exactly what's going on. Because they know, the government knows what's going on. They know the history of these beings. They know what's here. But they're not going to tell us. They're not going to tell us the history of it. We have to explore on our own. We have to find out information on our own. And this is how we do it. We go up on the mountains. We explore the petroglyphs. We understand the history of the earth. We understand the carvings from what the ancient ones are telling us, from what the ancient ones are writing in their scriptures, on their scrolls. We have to verify. We have to look at the clues that has been left behind. When we do all that, the information is so clear. The understanding is so there. We know what is here. We understand what these beings are. And it's a scary thing. And that's why they will never, ever, ever be disclosure. First it was flares. Then it's balloons and all these cover-ups. Weather balloons and this and that. Now, the next cover-up, because this is what people can relate to, is spaceships, is crafts, is technology, because that's what people can understand. They understand technology. They understand another being from another world. Don't get me wrong. The scientists have found 7 Earth-like planets that could resemble possible life, and what's to say somebody on those planets has made a spaceship, came down and visited Earth and this and that. Okay, I'm open for that. I'm not saying that hasn't happened. I'm saying there's no evidence of that. I'm saying we have to look at the facts. We have to look at what's really going on here. We have to understand what the truth is. And the truth is talking about these creatures here, these entities, these beings that are right above us. That is what's here, ladies and gentlemen. Not spaceships, not crafts. This is what we can prove is creatures, living beings in our sky. And for the government to come out and say, yeah, okay, these things are here. The Phoenix Lights are real. They're living beings. They're not spaceships or not crafts. They're another life form. They're another type of race of animal, if you will. They shapeshift. They have magical powers. They can go in and out of the rocks. They can go in and out of these fault line energies. Okay, and they were responsible for the people who got taken away, who were missing in our history, who were gone these things are responsible, they're not going to come out and tell you that, because if they did, that would wipe out Phoenix, Arizona. If they came out and told you the Phoenix Lights were responsible of taking the Holocron people away, that would just kill that would kill everything in Phoenix. Everybody would move out of that city, because just like what the Indians did. The Indians saw that, and they cursed that land. They cursed Phoenix, Arizona, the land now called Phoenix, Arizona. That's a cursed land because of these creatures in the skies, because of the Phoenix Lights. Ponder on that for a minute. Look at the evidence. Look at what we can verify. Not what hearsay and people trying to sell you books and movie tickets and stuff like that. But let's look at the evidence here. Let's examine the facts. Don't take somebody's word for it. Hell, don't even take my word for it. Pick up my book. I don't make any money from it. Just look at the photographs look at the stuff that I discovered. Go up on the mountain for yourself. Examine what's there. You find a tomb? I'm not saying open it. I'm just saying explore. Check it out. You know? Something's there. That's where our history lies at. The people, the city of Phoenix, the fiery bird from the formal civilization, the ashes of the formal civilization. This is it. The formal civilization is talking about giants. It's talking about the Phoenix Lights. It's talking about sacrificing altars. It's talking about Mayans. It's talking about giants. It's talking about these crazy things that for many is just stories. But when you examine it, when you look into it for yourselves, you understand that it's not just a story, but it's facts. Thank you guys for checking us out. Make sure you subscribe to the Phoenix Lights, Petroglyphs in the Sky, and we will see you guys next time. Thank you guys.